How's your injury? You've not got your cast on?
No, I don't have it on. Yeah, so update. Basically,
That's pretty tight.
Yeah, it is tight. It's to prevent. I was working out earlier and haven't taken off yet. But yeah. So I have Kienböck's disease, which is
What's that?
It's a bone disease, rare, happens in like 10% of people. It's due to limited blood supply to the lunate bone.
Is that because of the injury though, or it's the injuries because of that?
That's the question. So typically Kienböck's disease happens from like lifestyle. So like if you're an alcoholic or excessive steroid use or anatomical variance,
right,
or micro trauma to the area. And so I think it's a combination of micro trauma to the area and anatomical variance where my ulna in my forearm is not long enough. And so it's not supporting the carpal bones in my hand properly, which is leading to limited blood supply. And so the solution to stop the bone from dying, because it's currently dying as we speak, this is probably not helping.
Yeah.
Is to break the ulna and then lengthen it, put a plate, and then immobilize your arm for 3 months while it grows bone in between. And then ideally that lengthening process will increase blood flow because it'll better support your wrist and prevent your wrist from collapsing. Like if you don't do anything, if you don't use a surgical intervention, your like carpals will like collapse because your lunate is like the center bone, and your hand will just like succumb to chronic arthritis.
My God.
Yeah. And then they also have to do a secondary procedure, which they'll do at the same time. So they'll break the ulna, lengthen that, put the plate, and then they'll do a vascularized bone graft. So they'll take a chunk out of the lunate, big hole, and then take like healthy bone, like a chunk out of a healthy bone, probably when they break my ulna, and then put that in the lunate and like flip an artery over and cut a nerve. And yeah.
Damn.
It sounds metal.
Yeah.
Like I am scared.
Yeah.
For sure. It's so it's a year of like being fully out. So yeah, I have to pivot a little bit in life for just a year. Maybe a bit longer. I think, they say 3 months of full immobilization, 6 months of like you can use your fingers and you'll be wearing a brace, and then a full year till you're actually like you've done rehab and you can use your hand like a normal human. So probably a bit longer for performance, like guiding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a sprain.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. So injuries are intense. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I have my moments. Like I have sad days and I have good days, but this one is, I think today was kind of a sad day. But
did you find out today?
No, I found out last week.
But, yeah.
Yeah. And I had a moment when I found out last week. I kind of had an idea when I found out the MRI results.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to jump to conclusions or catastrophize because I didn't, you can Google what the MRI results are, but until I see a specialist, I don't know what the solution is. And I don't want to diagnose myself.
Yeah, it's probably if you Google it, just see you've got cancer, probably.
Yeah, totally. Well, it said Kienböck's disease. It did. It said exactly what the specialist said, which is funny. I went to ChatGPT and just like copy pasted my MRI results.
Yeah.
And it just was like, you have a dying bone. This is called Kienböck's disease.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing though.
Yeah. It was.
Is there any like comfort in kind of getting a final answer on what it is though? And like knowing what you can do to move forward as opposed to just being in limbo?
Yeah, totally. Like I have a time frame now.
Yeah.
I'm still a bit anxious because I don't have a surgery date, but at least I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to continue the Alpine program this summer. I wasn't sure about my work.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, yep, we have a surgical intervention that we recommend. This is how long it's going to take. And so now I can just like live my life based on that and just shift things back a little bit.
Yeah.
It sucks, but it's happening. So
yeah, you can't do
you
much
kind of
about
just
it.
have to embrace it.
Yeah, I definitely think like at least you've got a path, you know,
Yeah.
and like progress to make. Like I think, I know we spoke about it already with my like back thing where, funnily enough, I actually went to someone today who I think finally gave me an answer about it, and effectively with like my sacrum's being like out of alignment.
Okay.
But even then, just like chatting to someone who I'm like, right, finally, it feels like I know what's actually going on here. And like they gave me like they obviously did like manipulate it a bit and then gave me something to work on. But like having something to be like, right, sweet, I finally feel like I know what I'm doing, as opposed to the last year plus where I've just been like, right, I'll try this thing. And then, because then you're like, you convince yourself that the thing you're trying now is going to work. And then like a couple months later, you're like, nah, this is still the same. So yeah,
it's frustrating.
So you're having to pivot slightly with like regards to your work.
Yeah. So it's WCB, which is good.
Covers.
Yeah, work's covering it. But I'm grateful because I have a permanent position with Parks Canada, and so I'm not really worried about not having work. It's just having like purposeful work that is aligned with my professional development goals. And it's funny because I have like 2 careers that I'm in. I'm like pursuing the alpine guiding, and I'm also pursuing fire management.
Yeah.
And so within fire now, that's kind of taking precedent. I obviously can't fight fire this summer with a wrist injury. So I've applied to a few fire technician positions and hopefully step into some more managerial roles. We'll see.
So what is your, like on the fire fighting side of things, like what is your normal role with that job? Like how does that actually, how does that work?
I am a crew leader.
Right, okay.
Which is kind of, it feels like kind of like summer camp.
Yeah, extreme summer camp.
Yeah. But yeah, basically I'm a supervisor. I manage anywhere from 3 people, so a crew of 4, including myself, up to 12 at times. Like in the winter, sometimes we hire lots of people, sometimes we don't. It just depends on budget and project requirements. But yeah, what does a day in the life of my job look like in the summer?
I've got like a picture of you like jumping out of helicopters, like
just
in the middle of a fire.
me and the nozzle against 60-foot flames.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all. I mean, there's moments of where you think about, this is pretty cool. You have like the beautiful mountain backdrop. You've got like torching trees. Your friends are all running chainsaw and you're in the woods far away and probably in a place that nobody's ever walked before, usually, because the wildfires that happen by lightning are in the most random places. And so you get to explore really cool places in Banff. But yeah, in the summertime, like during high and extreme fire hazard, we're basically sitting next to the helicopter waiting for a dispatch.
And how regular do you get dispatched?
Banff is like a low fire park. So I was actually just looking at our 2024 fires report today, and it shows that in basically July, August, we have an increase in days recorded at high and extreme fire hazard. But generally as a park, I think it's because of our elevation, our biogeoclimatic region.
Wow.
Big word.
Fancy.
Yeah, forest type, like we're subalpine, boreal, and so we have just a lot of moisture in the duff here, and our coniferous trees hold a lot of moisture, and also we get a lot of inversions, and so we get that massive temperature gradient throughout the summer, cold nights, warm days, and that just increases condensation, and we just don't get as much of a hazard. So even if lightning does strike, it's usually gonna take off if it's on a south facing aspect where those fuels have had time to dry because of the solar exposure. So in terms of like number of fires per summer, I don't know, anywhere from like, it could be 5 to like 40 maybe. Really, the cool thing about working in Banff and Parks Canada is the prescribed fires. So you actually just get to put fire on the landscape on purpose.
Yeah. And is that more like a winter thing?
No, it could be year round. We do prescribed fires in the spring during the spring dip. So in May, when the snow starts to melt off of south-facing slopes and high elevation, it exposes cured grass. And then it stays moist in like canopy closed areas. And there's still snow low in the valley. So it's really prime burning conditions because you're not really worried about the fire carrying into a canopy and taking off down a valley because there's still so much snow. But on those south-facing slopes where the grass is exposed and it's been drying in May, you can just light it up. And so there's quite a few high alpine prescribed fires that we do of small capacity, like anywhere from 10 to 40 hectares in size.
That's probably, I mean,
yeah, hectare is
big.
1,000 meters squared.
Yeah.
Football field.
I mean, that's pretty big.
So. Yeah. In the alpine or like in the backcountry, it doesn't seem big, but yeah.
I mean, I'm obviously not in that world to me as well, though. So, like, if you told me like a football field was on fire, I'd be like, wow, that's a shit.
Yeah. And then we'll do prescribed fires in the fall as well. But usually we stay away from doing any sort of ignition operations in the summer because of fire hazard.
How do you stop a prescribed fire becoming bigger than it should be?
We call it an excursion.
Right, okay.
It all is based on prescription. So we have this book called the Red Book, and it is the fire behavior prediction system, and it has all these inputs that we can look at that will help us achieve a particular type of fire behavior. So if we want ground fire only, or if we want it to carry into the crown, if we want it to be patchy, or if we want full consumption, which means like burning everything in its path, you can figure out what you want, and then you choose the time of year with the right inputs that will produce that type of fire behavior. So, for example, in the spring, like I was explaining, south-facing slopes and cured grass generally expose themselves first. So if we wanted to just light a grass fire, like May would be the time. If we want full consumption, we would wait until the fall, and we would do a burn that has a multi-day weather event after. So some sort of rain event coming in post prescribed fire. That's like pretty certain that's coming. And then that will help suppress the fire.
Yeah.
In addition to crews working on the ground, you set up, you'll use terrain as a fuel break, natural fuel break. So usually the zones that we design for prescribed fire are bordered by like avalanche paths or rivers, rocky slopes and moraines. And so we'll use these like natural fuel breaks as our boundaries. So that kind of is what stops the fire at the end. But there are ways for fires to get away, spot fires. So if you have a particularly windy burning day, and you weren't expecting the winds to be as high, for example, the prescribed fire that happened in 2023 in the spring.
In front of town.
Yeah, there was like a big wind shift and it carried across the highway. And so that would have been a spot. It would have been embers that carried from one side of the road to the other and lit the grass and then carried into the canopy.
Yeah, that must be wild. Like, I don't know if you've been in that situation, but I'm just picturing you're like part of the crew and then you look over and then you see the fires there. Like, surely like you'd be like, you panic. I mean, I know you obviously want to be like in control, but surely you'd be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And it's just
you generally try to train to prepare for worst case scenario. I wasn't on that particular prescribed fire. But from what folks shared with me, it was definitely it was a big day. Yeah, I don't think anyone was really expecting it to jump the highway. But they figured it out.
It's also kind of not funny, but it was also weird because you didn't really hear about it throughout the day. And then I remember just coming home, and then someone like I don't have social media to be fair, so I don't miss out on a lot of like in town news.
Mm-hmm.
But my roommate told me, and he said there's a massive fire like so close to town, and I just like been buzzing around here all day, just totally oblivious to it. But yeah, I was kind of wondering how you don't get a prescribed fire to go out of.
Yeah, you
prescribed fire.
just really try to make sure that you prepare and you have the exact right indices that you forecasted,
Yeah,
that those are, you ground truth it. So
and then
you go and you do a test burn in a small area with suppression equipment and observe the fire behavior, and then you confirm yay or nay.
and then do you? I mean, obviously, I think you may have just said it, but you do get those like freak when picks up, like something happens, or
Yeah.
but is that like kind of 1 in a million, or is there like a? Because you know how you see you input all this stuff and it'll tell you like how big it'll be, etc. Like, are there times where you kind of need to factor in like the unknown element, and you're like,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you definitely have to have your safety margins. And so that's why fire crews are in place. So we'll have things like structure protection put up on any infrastructure that's like within, it depends on where the fire is and how big it is and the type of fire behavior we're aiming for. But let's say it's like a large wildfire, in the backcountry. We might put structure protection, so sprinklers on backcountry cabins that are within 5 kilometers from the prescribed fire. And so you'll run those sprinklers for an hour before you do the prescribed fire to create a humidity bubble, and then you turn them off and you leave it. And so the area is fully wet out, and if a fire rolls through, the plan wouldn't be to just have a fire roll through, but if it did, at least the structure would be protected.
And is that
Yeah.
would that be enough? Like just soaking it for an hour, it should be.
It depends on the structure, but
Yeah,
usually,
yeah.
yeah. And so we'll do other things like wildfire risk reduction. So we'll treat the fuel adjacent to the building. So within 0 to 10 meters, we will just clear cut, like level any sort of burnable fuel, remove all firewood or wooden equipment, tools. And then from the 10 to 30 meters, we'll reduce the ladder fuel. So we'll cut all coarse woody debris. We'll cut all ladder fuels, so any sort of branches up to 2 meters. Or if the tree is 2 meters high, you'll just cut it down, remove seedlings and saplings. And then you have like a wider spacing in between the canopy. So it just reduces the intensity of the fire if it was to approach the building. And then from 30 to 100 meters, you do the same thing. You treat the ladder fuels. And then you try to achieve a prescription of 3 to 5 meters between the crowns. So if you're getting like a, high intensity wildfire, it's going to carry between the crowns of each tree. And so hopefully with that 3 to 5 meters in like light winds, it might not be as intense. You're just trying to reduce the fuel loading around the building.
Yeah.
So that it slows down. Or if the building catches on fire because of human error, like, I don't know, something happened with the wood stove, then you've also treated that zone to prevent that fire from carrying into the forest and starting wildfire in the backcountry.
And is there like I assume there must be like a small or maybe larger amount of fires that are created by people.
Yeah. What did I see today? I think the majority of them are lightning starts. But there is a percentage of human starts. And a lot of times it's just negligence.
Yeah, just like campfire gone wrong.
Yeah.
Not like arsonist.
I remember the first season I worked for Banff, we got a fire on the Goat Creek Trail. And I was just a rookie at the time. It's high hazard. So we get in the helicopter and we go, and it's like 3 kilometers of a flight. Like it felt so silly to like lift off from the Parks Canada compound and just like bump over to the Goat Creek Trail.
Yeah.
And we land, we see this family, and like you can see that they're having a fire on the river rocks. It's like not gonna go anywhere.
Right, okay.
And it's like the tiniest, it's like a foot squared.
Right.
It's so small. It's surrounded by river rocks. There's a water right beside it. And we land with the helicopter, and it's just this like whole ordeal. And the warden came with us, and he gets out, and like,
What, had someone called in? Is that why?
I don't know how it was reported. I don't usually, like, someone must have reported it
Yeah.
that was like biking on the trail or something. But it just was such a scene.
And what was
It was this poor family, like, sorry.
And was there not supposed to be a fire? Is that what it was?
Yeah, you're not supposed to have, in the park, you can only have fire in designated
Right,
areas,
okay,
and
yeah.
generally it'll be a fire pit that's contained.
And was the warden cool about it, or was he like by the book?
I think he was pretty good about it. I wasn't involved in the discussion. Basically, we land, he gets out, goes and talks to the family. The poor kids were like kind of scared, but also amazed at the helicopter.
Yeah, it'd be very cool.
And so the pilot brings the kids over, and he's like,
oh, really?
check this out. Yeah. And then me and the other crew member go with our hard hats, and we just like fill our hard hats with water and like dump it on the fire. I felt so bad because, you know, they're just looking for a nice time to camp. But
Yeah.
I think people just don't realize how serious you need to take it. Like, you
Yeah,
just can't be having illegal fires in the park.
Yeah.
You're gonna burn Banff down. You just can't.
Yeah, no, especially after seeing Jasper. Like, I had never, in the time I've lived here, which has only been like 4.5 years, like I'd never really had a fear of fires. Like I've even been here, like I think like 2020, summer 2021, and maybe the summer after that, like there was a couple of weeks where it was like super smoky. But even then, like, even though they was so smoky, I wasn't really that worried. I don't know why. I think because everyone was like, oh yeah, it's from like further afield, which Jasper is also, but I think Jasper was the first place like nearby where I was like, oh wow, like the whole town, not the whole town, but like a large portion of the town burned down. And you're like, oh, like, and then you start to think in your head, you're like, what would I actually do if a fire kicked off? Like, you know, and I was chatting about it with a friend in Canmore, and he was saying, we were chatting about it, he lives in Canmore, and I was like, yeah, like, what would I do about, like how, like, getting on the highway? And I'm like, everyone from Banff's getting on the highway. And then he was like, yeah, and then you need to remember that you then get to Canmore, where everyone else is also getting on the highway. And I was like, fuck yeah, I never actually really, I mean, I grew up in a place where, like, natural hazards aren't really that dangerous. Like, it's more your own stupidity that will kill you. You know, like, as in if you go out and it's raining and you don't have the right gear. But there's not really anything in Scotland that's like, I mean, they will have wildfires somewhere, no doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's true. I haven't really heard of wildfires being
I mean, I don't even think,
Scotland.
I actually don't think they will be. It's so humid. Like, my mum and dad were saying that it's just like, I've been here for a while now, so I've convinced myself that the weather's not that bad.
It's so dry here.
Yeah. But I mean in Scotland.
Oh, okay,
I've convinced myself that the weather in Scotland, isn't as bad as people make it out to be.
Right,
and then anyway, my mum and dad are here just now, and obviously it's a conversation, and they're just like, it's terrible. It's just so wet. And I'm like, nah, like, surely not. And they're like, it's so wet all the time. So yeah, I probably don't really have a...
Yeah, you likely don't have wildfire hazard there.
So if it is a day in the life, like fire's kicking off, you're sitting at a helicopter. So are you like, are you on like a rota where you're like, you know, for 4 days you're staying in this cabin and you're on call, and then...
It's different with parks. One of the reasons why people come to work for parks is because you get this like work-life balance. It's nice because you can sleep in your own bed most nights and then fight fire in the backcountry, like in your backyard.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few times last summer where I was working long days, like 14-hour days, getting up early and driving to work. And my drive is 15 minutes to the park's compound, and then get into the helicopter. And, you know, within 15 minutes, you're in this like really amazing, beautiful zone in the backcountry, like running chainsaw and eating bars with your friends in the woods. And
you make it sound amazing.
It's sweet.
I know, I'm not saying it's not.
I've been doing it for 9 years, and I can't not do it. But this wrist injury for sure is gonna pivot things. But that's okay. You kind of have to. You have to grow from the crew life at some point.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. In the wintertime, I get my dose as well. So if I stop firefighting in the summertime, I'll probably still be somehow involved in the winter.
Do you ever just like start a chainsaw in the winter and just like hold it for like to get like a little like adrenaline kick, and then you're like, right, cool, I've done this.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. No, we will all winter. We actually run saw all winter more than we do in the summer. In the winter, we run chainsaw every day, you know, 4 or 5 days a week for 5 hours a day.
What do you do with the wood?
Burn it.
Oh, you just burn it. You just burn it
Yeah.
on location. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there's different like project goals, like objectives depending on the project. So for smaller projects, we just burn. So it's like having a bunch of little mini prescribed fires in
So
the
you just
park.
yeah.
So yeah, we light fire and play with chainsaws all day. It's great. And then cook wieners on the fire for lunch
Yeah.
during our mandated 1 hour lunch break. And then you know, there's bigger projects where there's logging, and so they'll log and use the timber as merchantable timber for the park, so that money will get reinvested into the fire program and likely go towards future prescribed fire and wildfire mitigation work in the
Mm.
park. So that's kind of a newer approach. We haven't done too much work in the park using heavy equipment just
But
because of previous understanding of the impact it has on ecological values.
you mean like getting that heavy equipment into the site or like cause damage?
Yeah, right. Like it kind of chews up the ground and
Yeah.
impacts like wildlife corridors. But in small doses, these projects still have an impact. And there's usually an environmental protection plan that's put in place where all the experts that can speak to the impacts that will happen in that particular zone have a say. And that's why everybody complains about how slow parks is. And it's like, well, yeah, there's a lot of red tape, right? Like there's all these people that are participating in these projects saying like, well, you can't do that because of this. You can't do that because of this. So for example, with chainsaw work, we can't run chainsaw and just cut down trees to burn for wildfire risk reduction work from April 1st to like September 15th, I think it is, because that's the nesting bird window.
All right.
So you might impact nesting birds during that period of time. So the only reason we would cut down a tree during that window is for emergency response.
Right. Okay.
So it's just a small example of like work limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to like pivoting, because the injury, like, can you pivot into the rock climbing, or is that kind of affected as well?
No, everything is being affected right
Yeah,
now. Yeah, I think I'll just put the guiding goals on hold. I'm still participating in practicum opportunities as a tail guide for skiing
right, okay.
because I can still ski
Just don't fall.
with a brace.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
exactly. I
don't
can't
fall.
fall. And it's just powder. But
Yeah, no.
that will be good because I'll just spend a lot of time in avalanche terrain and kind of keep up with the operational days in the mountains. But climbing will have to take a back seat for a bit.
Yeah.
So I have found a bit of comfort in like, I don't know, it's just been really busy, like pursuing guiding and having a full-time job and running a nonprofit. And so this injury has just kind of been a bit of a wake-up call. It's like, yeah, you're doing a lot. But that's great because now I still have so much purpose, even though I can't climb. If I was just doing the Alpine Guide program, I feel like my life would be ruined.
Yeah.
Because I would have had nothing else.
And do you feel like almost injury, like it's kind of like a forced, it kind of like forces you to slow down, which might not be the worst thing.
Yeah, I think all of us need that in
Yeah.
Canmore. We all learn that at some point, but
Yeah.
it definitely is forcing me to reflect on whether it's worth pursuing a career that uses my body so vigorously. Because I'm not resentful towards work or anything, but I'm just like bummed out that this injury was expedited because of running a chainsaw so often. And now it's impacting my personal goals outside of work. And I just question, is that worth it? Or maybe I'm getting old.
I mean, probably a little bit of both.
Probably
Yeah.
a little both.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
my mum and I were actually chatting about it today because she actually has a back issue as well. And she was chatting about how, like, she's very active, and so am I, and so am you. And she was saying about how, like, it's funny how the people that are so active are often the ones that they get injured, and then our friends that don't do anything, they don't have any injuries. But then it's kind of like, you know, that you do these things which probably exacerbate or expedite, as you said, the injury. So it's kind of like this, like, weird. You don't do anything, and there's a higher chance you're not going to get injured. But then I guess we enjoy doing this stuff, so it's like that kind of like what do? Do
Yeah.
you find a middle ground where you're like, right, cool, I can't do the the true triggering points of the pain, like maybe running a chainsaw, but I can still like help, still go out and like help with the team and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a fine balance, I think. I think the people who are active, you push yourself so much. That's the whole, like, we love being active because we enjoy performance. You want to see what your body can do when you push it.
Yeah.
And then you get an injury and it's a learning, like, okay, I pushed it. Let's dial it back a little bit and maybe find a bit of balance between how about just having fun climbing and not just, I don't know, going for a particular grade, or maybe focus more on building particular skills like specific technique or something like that, rather than being objective focused.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think mine, like my kind of current like long-term injury thing, it definitely has made me shift my perspective. I think we might have chatted about it before, about just like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And is it like actually make it, like, am I doing it just because I'm in this weird like gotta like keep going, gotta like do a bigger objective than the last one, and am I even enjoying that? You know what I mean? And yeah, I think because mine became a little bit more long term, it effectively just forced me to be like, right, okay, you're doing the same stuff and you're getting the same result. Like, if you want this to change, then you're gonna have to change what you're doing. And I think I don't know, just me personally, I've struggled with that for quite a while. But then once I started letting go of certain things that I thought, I did enjoy doing, and then started doing other things, I was like, oh, this is equally as enjoyable. Like I've been doing a lot of swimming lately, which I never thought I would do. And don't get me wrong, it could be like torture when you're just swimming endlessly, but it's been kind of nice to be like, oh sweet, I can actually enjoy this and get.
I might have to get into swimming.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's supposed to be.
I'm probably fine for my wrists.
Yeah, I think you would be fine.
I used to swim growing up.
Yeah, so you were telling me last time that you're a black belt in Jiu Jitsu. I still blown my mind.
Yeah.
Not because I don't think you could do it, but just because it was so left field.
Totally, so random. Yeah, that was like my life, growing up. My parents put me in jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, and I trained from, I think I was maybe 10 years old when I first started, and then I got my black belt when I was 16, and I kept training till about 18.
Yeah.
I never got a degree on my black belt, but I definitely wanted to go there. When I went to university, there was no dojo that I enjoyed training at.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost interest, and I lost that community a little bit. But those 8 years of my life definitely formed me.
Yeah, I would imagine.
They definitely contributed to why I don't know, I'd consider myself fairly driven. And so, yeah, no regrets.
Yeah.
And I think I'll eventually go back and train again, but I think I would love to start back at white belt.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, and I'm part of this wave, like it definitely seems like jiu-jitsu is like found this massive newfound popularity. Like I got into like MMA generally as a sport, maybe like, I don't know, like 10 years ago. And then
you do Muay Thai, right?
I did Muay Thai, yeah. So that's what we were trying. So I did Muay Thai at Dark Horse, and then because of the whole injury thing, I kind of like bend it off a little bit because of that. But like I always wanted to do jiu-jitsu, and I'm not just saying this to kind of bullshit you, but like the thing that put me off was the injury. So like it's kind of like that thing where like you injure yourself and then it kind of stops you from doing what you want to do, which sucks. But it definitely feels like jiu-jitsu's got this like new wave of popularity, and like
more and more people are talking about it now. It just seems like it's been coming up in conversation in my life more, and I find it quite interesting because I haven't really talked about that in a long time. Like when we talked about it the other day, it probably had been a while since it's like you forget that that's a thing.
And how many years? So sorry, actually, you said Japanese jiu-jitsu. Is there a difference between Japanese and Brazilian?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't train in Brazilian, but I think there's, I don't know, with Japanese jiu-jitsu, it's very focused on defense techniques.
Right, okay.
And like deflecting and carrying momentum.
Sorry.
Yeah. And so there's like a grappling and the sparring component, but the main the main focus in the black belt exam is you have to have, there's like a bunch of grabs and holds, and you have to have like the primary reaction, and then you have like 2 variations that you have designed and like created yourself.
Wow, that's cool.
And I mean, there's pretty standard variations that you could use, but
so you don't need to be like making something up.
Well, you kind of do, because it's an opportunity to present like some personal flair on the exam. And so the process of training for your black belt is really cool, because you choose a Yuki, and this person is basically your right hand for a long time, like for a year. You're training pretty rigorously with
like
them.
a training partner.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And you just train multiple days a week so that you've memorized everything and it's just dialed. You could do everything with your eyes closed. But then you don't just do it, you're like also styling it as well. And because the partner has trained with you for so long, they're like jumping and like, you know, like making the throws look a little bit more dramatic.
Yeah.
Or like landing and slapping the mat a bit louder. And
Yeah.
it's just like a dance kind of.
What was your style? If you had,
I had really high kicks.
right, okay.
I was really flexible. So I had really high kicks.
Have you kept that flexibility?
I don't know. I've been trying to kick a bag in a while. I think like I consider myself with climbing fairly flexible, so maybe it still exists. But yeah, I just had really high kicks, so I'd always find a way to incorporate that somehow.
Yeah, because there's a team, or not a team, but there's 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu, which I think is this big. It's a guy, Eddie Bravo, I believe, who maybe founded it. But anyway, there's a bunch of gyms, like franchise gyms, and I think his whole philosophy is like more MMA appropriate jiu-jitsu, i.e. it's like you're going for like attacks as opposed to like being more like defensive.
Okay.
And his is all about, he calls it like a rubber guard, which is like he incorporates his legs and stuff like that like a lot more. And I will totally, for full transparency, I'm obviously not massively well versed in jiu-jitsu, but just like being the casual observer and watching it, like yeah, it's sweet. Like,
what's it called?
So the gym is called 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu, but his style is called like the rubber guard. And I think it's all to do with his legs. And I think it's because his legs are super flexible. He uses his legs to like to get people. But
it's also really unassuming, because I think an attacker will often look at your upper body. And so if you're doing something crazy with your legs, they might not see it coming.
Well, my friend Keith, Keith was a pro MMA fighter, like fought in Bellator, and he was saying that if he was ever in a street fight, he would rather have someone who was a black belt in jiu-jitsu than like a high level striker.
Nice.
Yeah, he's obsessed with black belt. He's obsessed with jiu-jitsu, so there was probably like a little bias there.
Yeah.
But it's probably true. Like, you know, guys. I mean, typically it's guys, unfortunately, that are like getting into these street fights. But
I mean, it's all about taking someone from being in attack mode to being in like a submissive mode. So like either taking them down to the ground or being able to remove them from a space. Like we would come up with, you know, scenarios like getting a reckless drunk out of your party or something like that.
Have you ever used that outside of the gym?
That question comes up all the time.
Yeah.
With ex-boyfriends.
Oh really? Oh, okay, right, yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't really needed to use it.
Yeah, I think once certainly once I started like getting into it, like truly getting into like doing like Muay Thai anyway, sorry, you actually realise how much I didn't want to get in fights. Cause just being very like judging a book by its cover, I'd go to the gym and I'd see guys, girls, old, young, you know, whatever they look like, and I would just be like, cause I'm just like an average guy, but I'd be like, I have the average guy mentality also though, of being like, I can beat up most people in a room, which is obviously ridiculous.
It is funny though, when you train in martial arts, your perspective now is thinking about combat. And so for sure, I've sized people up before. Never actually have applied it, but it is interesting to be like, I wonder.
Yeah, so sorry. So what I was meaning there was, that was before I trained.
Okay.
And then after I started training, that totally was like gone.
Yeah.
I was totally like, oh, I could die. Like someone in this room could kill me right now. You know, because you get like, There's a woman. Oh God, I can't remember her name. I feel really bad saying that. There's a girl at the Muay Thai gym. Probably like I guess in mid-40s. She probably won't watch this anyway, so I won't insult her. But she's like shit hot at boxing, like amazing at it. But she kind of looks like a mum,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, she would probably put me to sleep. There's this like kind of like little scrawny guy who's got like big afro, like blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he just looks like a kind of like judging him. You would be like, oh, he kind of looks like a bit of a nerd. Would strangle me to death. So it's just funny how like since going to that, I'm like, oh, like there's so it just removed any, and also it actually it gave me the healthy fear of actually getting in a fight, in the sense of like you really don't know. One, you don't know who you're fighting with, but also like even if you are the better person, like if you hurt someone and like what happens if they fall and like hit their head and it does serious damage to them, if not kill them.
Could be really bad.
Yeah, it's just like no, and I think also as well for me personally, like going and training, I like got rid of the whatever ego I had within me that was like I need to prove that I can, I can like stand my ground or whatever. Because you kind of do it in the gym when you like, so we were training and then I would go sparring, and yeah, you definitely like removes that need to feel like I need to prove myself because I've just obviously been training.
So humbling.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Like definitely was like, yeah. So I think especially for me because I kind of got into older, so like the sparring for me because I was doing striking.
Okay.
So you obviously get punched in the face and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely because I got into it older in life and I didn't do it younger. It was like, it was a weird adjustment being like, right, okay, I want to punch you in the face and I like you, but I want to actually try and hit you and hurt you. Not like badly, but it's the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And also I need to like not get so frustrated when you do it to me. Like get frustrated that they caught you, but don't get frustrated at Sasha for like, like trying to do it. So it was definitely a weird.
Yeah, changing perspective there a little bit.
But I think that's why a lot of people like jiu-jitsu because obviously you do like how you're out rolling, but it seems to not be as damaging. Like I know you can still like pull muscles and stuff like that, but
yeah, I remember once I became a black belt, I really started liking how we started training with weapons, like defending yourself against a knife.
Oh really?
So we would do different knife attacks, like all the things that you learned prior to doing your black belt exam, but just now the attacker has a knife. And so there's obviously a different way of reacting. And then the end goal is to get the knife away from the person.
Yeah.
And we would do it with a marker.
Yeah, not a
real knife, but we would use a marker, and if you had like strikes on certain
parts
of the body,
you fair
could,
enough.
Like, see,
yeah,
where you got hit and how you need to improve.
Yeah, there's a guy, I don't know if you've seen him on YouTube. He's like a spoof jiu-jitsu guy.
So, okay, no, I haven't seen it.
Okay, right. So he's this guy, and it's like very obviously fake, but he goes into like legit gyms. So within the jiu-jitsu community, you go into people who are actually like well known and go in their gyms and give these like spoof things. But yeah, effectively it's all about knife attacks, and it's just like it's ridiculous. I'll send it to you after.
Send it to me. Yeah, I want to see that.
So how long did it take you to go? So you said 8 years from white belt to black belt?
I think so. Yeah, 10 years old. Actually, 6, I guess, because I got it when I was 16.
And do you think it was easier to do it as a kid, maybe purely because you had
probably because you just don't have
time.
anything else in your life? Like you go to school and you do jiu-jitsu. I didn't do anything else.
And was it common where you were? I don't know anyone that did jiu-jitsu. Sorry for it.
Yeah, I don't think it really was. Like, I didn't know anyone else in my school that did it.
Did you have like a reputation for like, oh, like, don't fuck with Sasha?
I don't think so. I don't think so, but I don't know. Who knows what your reputation is?
Yeah.
Sometimes you
don't. Probably wouldn't want to know. Sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, I wonder what people think of me, and I'm like, you know what?
I don't actually want to know. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of nerdy in high school, so I'm sure people didn't feel intimidated.
Book smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a jiu-jitsu performance at a talent show in high school.
Wow. So how did you just get like a member of the crowd and you're just like, come up here and I'll just
that would have been
do
fun.
like various chokes on them?
I had like multiple people from the dojo that I trained with come. Actually, yeah, one of the guys that I was good friends with was a grade older, and he him and I trained a lot together and became quite good friends. So yeah, there was some people I went to school with that trained at the same dojo. But yeah, we performed in the talent show, and like I'm trying to remember, but I think we had it where everybody was like circling around me and I was in the middle and Evanescence was playing.
Oh, no way. Did you choose that, or just this is coincidence?
No, we like choreographed the
Right,
whole
okay,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, like it was planned.
Did you feel like super cool when you were
I
doing
remember
it?
feeling cool. Yeah. I think I was probably like 13 or something.
Okay,
like
right,
that.
cool, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be very cool when you're 13. I cringe at, like, honestly, I cringe at like half the stuff that I thought was cool. And then I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have a video. My family probably has a video of it. It would be pretty funny to watch.
There's a video of me at my talent show when I'm like probably older than that. I was like maybe 16 doing like Ice Ice Baby with our gym teacher. It's on YouTube. I actually, it'd be really hard to find because my PE teacher uploaded
Link it in the notes on the
yeah,
podcast.
yeah. My PE teacher uploaded it and it was like, yeah, I mean, it's just shockingly bad. It's really bad. It's as bad. Like I've got like one rolled up pant leg, like a hoodie up, but I've got like a snapback on. It's like,
And you're doing like a full dance?
oh, the whole song we do the dance. We do like jumps.
Like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You choreographed a dance.
Yeah, it was really. It was kind of like what it was though. Was like It was. I don't even know what we were thinking, to be honest. Because I was going to say it was a laugh, but at the time it wasn't a laugh.
Did you think you were a Backstreet Boy?
No, like it was like I think we were trying to do it to be funny, but then what happened was so there was a group of girls in our school who were they weren't cheerleaders at our school, but they were cheerleaders at like our soccer team.
Okay.
And then I think because like they were like, I'll just be blunt about it, they were like really hot. We were young guys, and they were like, "Oh, we'll do it with you," and we were all just like, "Yeah." So then it went from us just as like mates doing this like funny thing with our PE teacher to then it became this like semi-serious because they took it serious.
So they did it with you?
Yeah. So
Okay,
we're
so
like
you were-
dancing, and then there's like I think it was like 2 or 3 cheerleader girls.
Oh my god.
It's cringe.
You had backup.
Yeah, effectively, yeah. But then one of my good friends when I was at school was like the ultimate supportive friend. So this
Yeah.
is in like our school assembly. It's like I don't know how big it was.
Everybody watched.
My friend
everybody
is
saw.
screaming my name. Like throughout the whole video, you just hear him screaming my name, which is kind of like I remember in the moment thinking like, "Oh,
I'm
like
so cool."
this is so sweet." I mean, to be fair, like now when I look, I can find it, and like if I ever drunkenly watch it, I'm like, "This is actually kind of funny." But yeah, I look back and I was like, "Oh my God."
You have to have those moments. Being in your teens is. I'd love to be able to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
During my teen years.
I know, and especially when you listen to kids now as well. Like I was sitting in Beamers this morning, and it was these 2 kiddos, just chatting about just
Whatever.
and I was like, "This is a wild conversation." And you get it with guys as well. You know, you listen to young guys, and you're just like, "What are you even talking about, man?" It's like, but I guess that would have been
different
us.
interests, like exposed to different things growing up now. It's weird to think that kids who are born now will never know a world without like AI.
Yeah, I know.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I only got really into it in the last like couple of years.
Yeah.
I had friends who were always like, "I use it for everything." I was like,
I started using it for meetings like kind of like something like this.
Mhm.
And I used it last night. I had a meeting about Dirtbabes and I was doing some assessment of resumes for volunteer applications. And there was so much discussion and it was very unorganized, it felt like, with like really random direction. And then the summary notes from the AI generated program were perfect.
Oh, really?
Like it was just like, this is what you talked about. These are your action steps. This is what you have to do. These are the people you want to choose.
So
it was amazing.
So did you like write the notes down, or had you recorded it and then it transcribed it in?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It just summarizes whatever it hears.
So you use ChatGPT to actually run the meeting? No, run it.
I
Sorry,
use Google Workspace.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And does it like transcribe your does it like record everything? If we were chatting on it just now, it would.
You could do that. Yeah. So you can get it. You have to pay for Google Workspace, but it
Yeah.
will do everything. It'll create a transcription. So everything we actually talk about. And then it will also do summary notes. I think there's another thing that it does. It records so that you just have the recording.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, I was using one. I did a podcast with a friend who's in New Zealand right now, and we use one called Riverside, which honestly is kind of the same thing. Like I was just using it because honestly didn't put that much research into it. I just used it because someone had recommended it was good, tried it. But then afterwards I was like, I was like editing the video and it was the same thing. It had like transcribed everything that we had said, like really clearly as well. Like, you know, with my accent as well. Like sometimes I mumble and it can be hard to like transcribe that. But yeah, it got it like effectively perfect. There obviously were a few scenarios, and then it had like broken it down into like chapters. So it
Wow.
was like between like X and X, X and Y, you chatted about this, and then Y and Z, you chatted about that, and then you could actually mute. So like, I think because it had been a podcast over the internet, I guess I wasn't as conscious like when I'm doing it like in person. Like I have a bad habit. I think I was saying to you before, like saying like yeah after everything.
Right.
And I was kind of doing that in this podcast just because it was probably a different format, so I wasn't as conscious as I am now. And you can mute them all.
Oh,
So I
wow.
could go through the whole thing and mute every time I'm just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You could literally mute it, which I'm not gonna lie, took me like hours to do because you need to do it and then wait for it to buffer. But anyway, it was really cool though. Like I was like, but yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, it's kind of wild. Like how kids will just be like,
That's just normal to them.
But I guess that like our parents no doubt look at us and be like, I can't believe they like grew up calling each other
With phones. Yeah. That's true.
So I remember, I know that this is like a crazy thing, but I remember like when I was at school, if your friend was off school, you had to wait till you get home to like call them on the house phone and be like, why were you not at school today? And then some totally non-cool thing, like they were sick.
Yeah.
But
totally.
even that small thing had just been like for like 8 hours, like, yeah, for 8 hours a day, you're like, what happened to Sasha? Like,
yeah. Can't reach her.
Yeah.
I remember when my brother got a phone earlier in his life than when I did. And I just remember thinking it was so ridiculous because he was like in grade 9 or something like that and had a cell phone. I'm like, he doesn't need one.
I know, but that's the thing now. It's like, it's not even just a cell phone. It's like, you know, people I know who have kids who are teenagers, it's like, they don't just want a cell phone. They want an iPhone or a smartphone.
They're expensive.
Yeah, it's wild. I can't imagine. Yeah, I honestly can't imagine how people afford to have kids and give them all this. I now feel so ungrateful for all the stuff that mom and dad gave me. I'm just like,
we can still say thank you.
Yeah. But my mom and dad are on like holiday mode just now, so they're just like a spending mode to a degree. So like we've been out for dinner and whatever, and they've been going in a few shops, and I'm just kind of like there, like just to spend time with them. And they're like, oh, like I'll be like, oh, that's a nice jacket. Mom's like, get it, and I'm like, what? But it's just because they're on holiday. They're just in there like, we're here, like not necessarily spend all.
They save all their money for these types of experiences.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun to just be like, you know what? I'm gonna treat myself.
I know, and to be honest, like I definitely have to, like I got a massage and she paid for it, so I definitely have taken advantage of it. But
nice.
Yeah, no.
Did you get an hour?
I did get an hour, yeah. It was a girl in Canmore or Vicky something. She's at like
Back at it?
No, not back at it. No, it's a place near the hospital. I actually can't remember what it's called, but her name's Vicky, but she was amazing, yeah.
Okay.
It was less like I've had like tons of massages from like back at it and other places which are good. But it was less like just a hard, deep massage and more like, right, okay, cool. Like trying to
therapeutic.
Yeah, like actually like manipulate it a little bit. And this is probably the worst position to be sitting in.
Just slouching.
I know, just slouching and I've got sore back, but
I always get 90-minute massages. You got to go to Lily at back at it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Lily is good.
And Canmore or Banff?
Canmore.
Oh, okay, cool, yeah. But I saw that you could get a 3-hour massage.
What?
Yeah, I know. Which would be amazing, I think. But then, like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Should
I'd have to take a bathroom break, probably.
Yeah, unless you literally just passed out. I mean, maybe still, like.
Yeah, that's true. But then it's like you're not awake for the experience.
I know, and I usually like, which is obviously evident with this, like I can't be a chatty person. Like I'll usually go in and I'll like, I probably would prefer just chilling in silence. But if they start chatting to me, like
you're just gonna
I'm
chat.
just gonna chat.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, fucking hell, like 3 hours of like conversation. I think after that you'd just be like,
you'd be so socialized out,
socially depleted.
Yeah.
And were you saying that you kind of missed the, like socializing wise? You were saying you kind of like missed the jiu-jitsu community a little bit, or?
Yeah, I did. I do. I think it was like the first, I don't know, group of people where, yeah, I felt like I belonged, I guess, in my high school years for sure. I didn't love high school. I don't know if many people really did. but I wasn't really in any sports in school, and so I didn't have like a sports team to really like
Hang out with.
connect with, and obviously had close friends and whatever, but yeah, the dojo family was unlike anything else for sure. Like they were like the first people that I partied with and like had my first beer and learned how to play pool.
So how did you go from the jiu-jitsu community to the rock climbing community?
That's a good question.
Was that a transition, or did you really kind of just like finish one and then you at some point just picked the other one up?
Yeah, I think there was some time in between. I went to university in Thunder Bay and stopped doing jiu-jitsu and then got into climbing. I think I had a class or a course that exposed me to it, and then there were some friends out there that were into it, and they invited me out, and I never really.
So you had rock climb before that?
Not
I mean,
really. I
minus
don't
going
think
to like a
so.
party and rock climbing somewhere.
Yeah, like at the indoor gyms. No, I don't think so. I think my first outdoor climbing experience was at university. And I never really intended to do more than just top roping. Like I really liked just getting invited out, and I just felt like there was too much gear involved and it seemed really complicated with all the stuff and so much jingling bits and too many things to go wrong, and I just liked being invited and being given the gear and climbing the rock. And then it just kind of, I think it evolved because of the people. Like you just keep meeting cool people. People who are interested in climbing are, generally pretty stoked about being outside and like to have adventures.
Generally, they seem to me chill people.
Yeah,
like it doesn't.
totally.
Yeah, I know you obviously will get like non-chill people, but it seems like generally everyone's like kind of chill.
Yeah, totally. Like,
and do you think that's because of what you're doing? Like there is a little bit of, I mean, you need to trust the people that you're climbing with to believe you and stuff like that, but then you're also like trust the fucking equipment works. And
yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, maybe you share like a similar level of risk tolerance, which can be comforting. But also, I don't know, as you get further into the climbing community, then you get like people who are pretty intense.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, overall, like the sport climbing community, I would say is fairly chill. It's a pretty relaxing sport. I mean, you're pushing your body really hard when you're climbing, but then you're like relaxing at the base of the cliff with snacks and dogs, and yeah, it can be pretty good.
And was there a moment that you like transition from the like I'm just getting invited along and I'm enjoying it to like, oh, I want to start buying all this gear and doing it? Do you remember that moment, or was it more like a
when I graduated, I like had to move back to Ottawa, and I knew that I wasn't gonna have the same I didn't want to hang out with the same community that I had when I left Ottawa. I didn't really want to hang out with the people that I went to high school with. Like I just didn't feel that I was the same person.
Yeah.
And so when I came back to Ottawa, I started going to the climbing gym there. And then I took a course, lead climbing course, and bought all my own stuff. And then I met a couple of guys at the climbing gym, Joel and Trevor, and we went to Kienböck, which is like a 15-meter cliff, maybe even shorter.
Right, okay.
An hour drive from where I lived every single weekend. We were there every weekend. It was like, what are we going to climb this weekend? Kienböck. And we were there all day, sunrise to sunset.
That's cool though.
Just messing around, like, we taught ourselves a lot. But yeah, Joel now lives in Squamish, and he's like a rope access technician, and he's taken climbing pretty far personally, which is kind of cool to see because we met so long ago. I don't know if Trevor climbs anymore. He's a family man, and here I am in Canmore. But it's cool how people get into climbing and it's like something you do for life.
Yeah.
Some people dabble, but
so you kind of picked it up just purely because like your friends are inviting you, and then
and then I just was like, I want to meet other people that are like those people.
Yeah. And then when you moved from Ottawa to Canmore, was that just Did you move because you wanted to climb in this area, or was you moved just because you want to be this area and then you continued to climb?
I heard that the climbing was good here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know tons about it. I just knew that Canmore was a rock climbing destination, and I was looking for work in the outdoor industry, and that's all I needed to make the trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stopped in Canmore. I actually initially planned to keep going into BC, like maybe to Squamish or something.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But I stopped in Canmore and then haven't left since. Yeah.
And do you think Canmore, like, would you still go to Squamish, or you're kind of settled in the base?
I'm pretty settled here. Me and my partner both own our own condos.
Wow.
And yeah,
Really?
we started dating and we both have our own place, and he's one floor above and down the hall.
Oh, really?
And
That's funny.
so like I would go visit him and he would visit me.
That's kind of nice though.
It was really nice, yeah. But now we moved in together.
Right, okay.
So now I rent out my place and live with him.
Okay, nice.
But he's a mountain guide, so his career is here.
Yeah, obviously.
And for me, I'm just so invested now with Parks Canada that I think both of us see a good 10 years probably at least in Canmore. We'll see. The first, I guess, 11 now that I've been here have gone by fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember meeting people and asking them how long they had lived here, and 6 to 8 sounded like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been here over a decade.
Yeah, I think I've only been here like 4.5, and I'll talk to people, and usually it's like in the kind of gap year kids that you meet in the gym, in the steam room, you're chatting to guys, and they're like, you can hear them talking about like their season, and then you might like give some like, oh, like you should try this and try that, and they'd be like, oh yeah, like how long you been here? And then I'll be like, oh, 4.5, and they'll be like, wow. But then the guy I'm sitting next to will be like, oh, I've been here like 20, and it's like, ah, cool, yeah.
4.5 is a good chunk of time.
Yeah, there's definitely levels to the localism within this area. Like, yeah, 4.5, it does sound a lot to someone like the kind of gap year kid, but then to you, you're like, oh, sweet, yeah, that's like, you're kind of like still relatively new.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, I've had like various moments where I've kind of like thought about going home. Most recently, kind of the end of last year, because the whole PR thing, I was like, shall I, shan't I, kind of get it, whatever. And I think it was the first time that I'd really like, I truly contemplated it, and it was funny how it just like I was like, wow, that's actually been so quick, because I think because I'd shifted my perspective, because I was like, right, cool, I might actually go home here, and then I was, you start like thinking about your time here, and you're like, wow, like fucking hell, like 4.5 years, like last week I thought that was so long, and this week, because I'm thinking of leaving, it just seems to have like
goes by so fast.
By so quick.
How does the PR thing work for you here?
So like work, like job wise,
like in order, because you're looking to become like Canadian citizen.
Maybe, yeah. I haven't gone that far, so like I don't know if I'd go full citizen, but yeah. So the PR works for me, just in the sense of I just kind of tick all the boxes. Been here long enough, got enough experience, and then obviously want to do it as well. So they emailed me like 2 weeks ago asking for my mailing address. So I'm So I was like, I'm jinxing it, but
this is exciting.
Yeah, no, I need to stop telling people though, because at first I wasn't telling anyone, and then when they sent me like, hey, what's your mailing address so we can ship it to you, I started telling people. But when I'm just like,
you're like, what if it doesn't
so
come?
pessimistic about it. Yeah, I'm like, but what happens if the thing they've changed their mind? But so yeah, but yeah, I was just like, when I was kind of reflecting, I was like, wow, 4.5 years is actually nothing really, Like I remember I went to Australia before, and I only went there for a year. And I don't know if I was chatting about it with you, but I was chatting about it with someone where like my memory of that 1 year is like, it's like someone else's memory.
Right.
In the sense of like, it was so foreign in the regards to like what I was used to. And it was so short and so long ago that I'm like, I just have this like weird dream that, of like living in this like really like foreign environment.
For just a year.
Yeah, no, I'm like,
but in the moment, it probably felt like it
forever,
was.
Yeah. And I wonder if now that say I do leave Canada, and in 10 years' time I look back, will I be like, wow, fucking hell, like maybe 5 years at that point, but I'll be like, wow, 5 years, that was like.
Yeah, will it feel like a blip in time?
Yeah.
Because as you get further away, your memory of things, the details start.
Yeah, definitely, yeah, and you kind of like your memory can like play tricks on you as well, where like you remember stuff like incorrectly, or you kind of like exaggerate
mix stories up. Yeah.
But yeah, so and then you've also got your Dirtbabe Collective. So you're so
Yes.
sorry, are you, am I right in saying you're an apprentice alpine guide?
I'm apprentice rock guide.
Right, apprentice
And
rock
I'm
guide, sorry.
in the apprentice alpine guide program
Right, okay,
for
cool.
2025. So I've completed the guide training ice, and then there's the apprentice alpine guide training. That's the summer course, and then there's the exam.
So is that what you're thinking you might not get to do this summer?
Yeah, if I get surgery, well, even if I don't get surgery, I can't put my wrist through that. It's just too much to ask
Yeah,
of
I
my
mean,
hand.
you also have to, this is a super extreme example, but I was somehow listening to this podcast or whatever, where these guys are getting this, like, they're getting made taller. So what they're doing is kind of the same as what you were saying with your bone there, where like they break your legs and they'll put a rod, effectively like put a rod in it and to make you taller. But then the guy who was chatting about it was like, yeah, but the thing is, he was like, that would totally like your spatial awareness and how your body moves would also totally change.
Oh
Because
my
like,
gosh, everything would
you know, I'm
change.
so used to like the my legs just now, so I know that like if I move it, I know where it's going to kick. And you know, I don't know. I mean, that's super extreme, but like with your hand as well, like if that bone is longer, like I wonder if you'll actually.
It might. I mean,
I
it's
just mean like
only supposed
the
to
little
be.
micro movements, of, like rock climbing. You might be like, oh shit, you know,
I can touch it
yeah, I can
faster.
get it
Maybe it's a
quicker.
superpower.
Yeah.
No, it's just like 2 millimeters.
Right, okay,
So it's like a
yes.
super tiny
Right,
amount.
okay, yeah.
Um,
Have you got any
but
other like metallic objects in your bones now?
no, this is the first. This will be the first major surgery really that I've gotten. I mean, other than like wisdom teeth, but yeah, no rods or anything.
Yeah.
I've been pretty lucky most of my life.
Especially if you're into like Jiu Jitsu, rock climbing, firefighting.
Seriously, I know. I feel like it was like bound to happen, so I can't be upset. But now I'm like, okay, I value the function of my body,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
gotta think about the risks I'm willing to take.
Well, I guess you
Yeah.
can pivot into Dirtbabe.
Yeah, so
So give me like the origin. I know you told me before, but like what
for
was
sure.
the origin story of Dirtbabe?
Yeah, so Dirtbabe
And
Collective
what is Dirtbabe?
is a nonprofit organization. We are federally incorporated.
What does that mean? Sorry.
Which means that we are recognized as a nonprofit
Right, okay.
across Canada.
Okay.
And we serve kind of the Alberta, British Columbia provinces. I think the demographic of the communities that we serve generally tends to be female identifying, non-binary, between the ages of like mid 20s to mid to late 40s. And we offer climbing programs with a therapeutic spin. So there's a psychoeducational component incorporated into the programming before, during, and after. So we offer a flagship program, which is called the Alpine Climbing Camp. We've collaborated with Alpine Air Adventures to provide the insurance and the guides for that particular program. It takes place in the Bugaboos, and essentially it's an opportunity for 6 participants who have maybe experienced trauma in the mountains or have a deep fear related to climbing or spending time in alpine environments. They have a significant amount of sport climbing experience and have been exposed to traditional climbing.
So they would need to experience prior to it?
Yeah.
Right, cool. So it's not like for never ever's.
Totally. It's
Right, okay.
more for folks who are keen to take their climbing to that next step and start to challenge themselves in alpine environments versus rock climbing environments. And the ratios are really good. So we usually have 2 participants to 1 guide, which is great for receiving one-on-one coaching and direct feedback with regards to technique and understanding your, technical skill sets around rock rescue and crevasse rescue. So the camp itself has taken place for the last 3 summers. And then we do other camps as well, but they're on a smaller capacity. So we'll do like a 3-day traditional climbing camp. So if you want to get into trad climbing, it's the perfect camp for you. We do workshops where we collaborate with local climbing gyms and do like a psychoeducational workshop in the morning where we talk about like neuroception and how we perceive ourselves in relation to the environment related to climbing. And then in the afternoon, we'll apply those learnings and we'll do more bouldering technique focused skills. So little things like that where we try to just provide the community what they're asking for.
So you kind of change it year on year, like given what people are.
Yeah, like on our social platforms, we'll kind of just see what people want and then we'll develop programs accordingly. But the Alpine Camp is the main program that we've put a lot of time and effort into. And then from that, we've developed a few other things like our guides training. So the guides training is actually something that we hope to offer outside of the camp. It's something that guides who work for us will receive by just being involved with Dirtbabe Collective, but we'd like to be able to offer it as a CPD or continuing professional development course at some point, or provide it as a YouTube lesson or something like that. But it does cover similar material to what we offer to our participants, giving guides the tools to be able to psychologically support people in the mountains as well. Not asking them to be a counselor or a therapist, but being able to have the tools in the toolbox to not only support their guests in the mountains physically and technically, but also mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
Because it's an intimidating environment. And I think, the whole point of Dirtbabe Collective is to break down the barriers to accessing alpine climbing. And one of those barriers for sure is the mental side. It's takes a brave individual to step outside of the regular rock climbing, sport climbing environment and hike, 1,000 meters up into the bugaboos and start climbing cracks with no bolts.
Yeah.
It also takes a lot of skill. So you got to combine a bit of empowerment with technical skills. And that's what Dirtbabe Collective does.
Yeah.
So how did it start? Dirtbabe Collective started in Hawaii.
Nice.
It was birthed out of a volcano.
Yeah.
Maui. That's where we went. And it was my best friend and I. We had both just gone through breakups. We decided to do an impromptu trip to Hawaii for 10 days. Usually we go on climbing trips together, but we decided, no, we're just going to go rent a car, go chase waterfalls, hang out on the beach, and heal and see a new place. And we were hiking. We did this 3-day hike in a volcano on Maui and saw no one while we were in the volcano for 3 days.
Did that at any point were you like, should we be here?
No, it was awesome.
Okay, right, cool.
Both of us were like, this is amazing. We have it all to ourselves.
Was that like a trail, or were you just like
there's trails?
Right, okay.
Yeah. This was like a common. I wish I could remember the name of the volcano, but this is like a common circuit that hikers will do.
Yeah.
And so I think we stayed. There was 2 nights of camping. One night was just a regular campsite, and I think the other night we slept in this like horse tack shed that we found. But we were hiking one day and it was like pouring rain, like sideways rain, and we're decked out fully in all our rain gear, but we're soaked down to our underwear, and we're just talking about whatever life stuff. And we just kind of stopped and laughed because you look around and we're in the middle of a volcano in Hawaii, no one to be seen, talking about like day-to-day average conversation. And we just recognize like how amazing it is to be with people that you feel safe with in spaces like that, and how empowering those types of vulnerable environments can be when you're with the right people. And then Sarah and I, we went to university together, so we had, entertained the idea of doing projects together. I think we worked on a couple school projects together, but she's always been drawn to some sort of idea of like a wellness center. And this idea has evolved over the course of time. We've been friends for 15 years or something, longer than that maybe. And it started off as a wellness center, which was like a brick and mortar location where people could come and go, and there'd be like these spaces for people to craft or engage or however that may look. But this idea has evolved over time, and she is a registered counselor in BC now. And her style is really cool. She provides talk therapy for folks outside. So she'll go for walks. She'll meet her clients in the woods and they'll go for a walk and have a conversation, but it's like a proper therapeutic session. But it just allows people to connect with nature and then also be able to look inward. And so she's brought that spin to Dirt Babes. I've always been an introspective person too, so talking to her about these ideas has always interested me as well. And I always thought maybe if I went back to school, I'd go back for psychology or something like that. But my thing is more, I'm kind of like the psych person. Like I get people fired up.
Okay.
I'm like like the morale booster.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, I mean, I've been in wildfire for 9 years, so you can assume that I really enjoy like working with people. I love different personalities. Yeah, I just think people are really interesting and cool, and I think everybody has like superpowers that can be recognized if you like bring out that side in them. And so that's me, and then there's Sarah, and so when we combine those interests plus my guiding pursuits, we've developed this idea of Dirtbabe Collective, where it's like a very niche type of programming that now exists in the mountain community that is just different from your typical like let's go rock climbing, which is great too. Like people love that as well, and maybe that's all they want out of the course. But Dirtbabe Collective just gives you a little bit more of an experience. And we've had participants who've done our programs and then they're like, okay, cool, like I don't need to climb anymore.
Oh, really?
Which is interesting too. Like some people are just like, I really wanted to do this thing to prove that I could do it.
Yeah.
And like now I'm okay with not doing it. Like I don't need to do
wow.
it again. Or maybe I'll do it again but later in life.
So it's almost like a closure thing for whatever
Yeah.
like kind of traumatic or like experience they were wanting to get past, and the kind of course helps them, and then they're just like, sweet, done it.
Yeah,
Wow,
totally.
that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a small program, right? There's only 6 people that do it each year, and they're pretty cool people that come to the program. I mean, we've been able to offer it for a pretty subsidized cost. We don't, we fully volunteer our time. So the cost that it covers is really just the guides, because there really isn't like, there's not many overhead costs. It's like the cost of the guides. We provide dinners, so freeze-dried meals in the evenings, and then I guess like fuel and per diems that we provide for the facilitators. But really, like the most expensive things is like the insurance and the guides.
Yeah,
and so
imagine, yeah.
But now we're like, okay, in order for us to make this sustainable, we do need to pay ourselves, at least like during the program if we're helping facilitate. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it evolves.
Where would you like it to go?
Yeah, good question. I hired a business coach through a mentorship program with the, what is it called? The Innovation and Science Canada section of the government. And so it's like a collaboration or a sponsored partnership with RBC, and they offer this like mentorship program for women in business. And so I've got a business coach through that, which is really cool because we've been looking for a mentor for so long, because all of us every day are just learning how to run a nonprofit, and nonprofits are just very gray. Like there's no, there's like the textbook bylaws that you could operate by, but the words are really confusing, and it's all that legal jargon that sometimes just doesn't even apply. We're such a small organization that some of that stuff just seems a little bit unnecessary. So we've been, we didn't know how long this was going to last, but we knew that it was a passion project that we wanted to make big at some point. And it's ebbed and flowed over time. We've had moments of feeling discouraged because it's a lot of work for no money, but the reward is really seeing the participants grow after the camp and just the bigger community that we've slowly built over time. And so recently we decided that, yeah, we want to keep running the camp every year, and we'd love to be able to operate multiple alpine camps. We'd like to operate winter camps as well. And then we want to do this guides training. So we really want to develop that and then have that be kind of one of the programs or pieces that we offer the community as well. So I guess where we want to take it is we've always been focused on offering something really high level, really high, really intentionally designed. So that's why the one camp has like been the only thing that we can actually like kick off the ground, because there's so much planning involved in making it happen. And there's a lot of intention in the process for acquiring applicants. So we have like a whole intake form that people fill out, and we assess them and their best fit for the program. But we have so many applicants that we'd love to be able to invite them to different programs if maybe the Alpine camp isn't the best fit.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 5 years, what I'd love to see is like a progression opportunity. So similar to with like the ACMG, where you have this like chart and it shows you like all the prerequisites that you need for each guiding stream. I don't want to make it like a certificate thing or anything, but I just want people to be able to see something that they're inspired by, and if they're not ready for it, they have another option that they can take in order to like then get to that point. So more traditional climbing camps, exposing people to trad gear, maybe like a mini alpine camp where it's like a 2-day thing and we go into some challenging alpine terrain, but maybe not as remote as the Bugaboos. Multi-pitch rock would be great to have, and then still incorporating that psychoeducational piece.
Yeah. Do you would ever take it back to like eventually you could be like from like zero to hero kind of thing, where like never ever is to like your alpine program?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah. Like actually, one of the ideas that I had this year that I would love to do, and I'm a strong believer in sharing your ideas to the world instead of hiding them.
Right, okay.
Because the likelihood of somebody actually doing it is so low. I learned this in business school.
Okay.
But one of the programs I'd love to be able to offer is similar to there's a company or organization called Girls Do Ski. Have you heard of them?
I actually think I have, no.
They're amazing, run by Leah Evans, who's a pro skier or ex-pro skier and guide, and their programs are focused towards bringing women into ski environments, and they do everything from, you know, noobs to people who want to be guides. And so they offer this program that's like a guides camp, and I was signed up actually to take it for March, but I pulled out because of my injury. And the guides camp focuses on like all the things you would want to learn and know in preparation for applying to the ski guide program.
Mm-hmm.
And so
their ski guide program or the ACMG?
ACMG.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's a 3-day camp, and they kind of cover, you know, the gold standard of guiding techniques in the realm of skiing. And I want to do that for alpine climbing for women, because I've had enough interactions now with folks who have asked about the guiding process, but have been unsure if they want to commit to doing it. And it takes years to build the resume to even just apply, which is a huge commitment of time. And so to be able to offer a course to help people answer that question, like, do I want to be a guide or not?
Yeah.
I think would be a great program to offer. Because then what you get out of it is the yes, no, I do or don't want to become a guide. But now I'm a better climber for it. Like, I've now learned more tools and techniques at a professional standard to just be safer in the mountains. So like it's a win-win.
Yeah.
And so I think there's enough women now in the community that are interested and are exposed to guiding that there would be enough interest. But yeah, that's my next idea.
Yeah. And what's been your perspective of someone getting into the community and then working in it from like a female perspective? Like, do you think is it still like skewed more in like a male dominated?
It's a male dominated community, but I don't think women are, I don't know if they necessarily experience too many barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Like in terms, there may be psychological barriers, like a bit of projection into the community as to what you might think you might experience if you tried to pursue guiding. Like so far, my experience has been amazing, and I've had nothing but support from my female and male peers. But it takes the right mindset, I think, to jump into a community that's dominated by a particular gender if you're the minority. But with fire, I've always been
the
minority, so it didn't feel like a big deal when I applied. Yeah.
And did you think like, so, because I think you were saying before, like Dirtbabe Collective isn't necessarily like a female program. Like you were saying, it's actually like anyone, like non-binary guys.
Yeah. However you identify, we would like to bring those folks into the community. Although the alpine climbing camp is for female identifying, non-binary, and trans folks. That part of that 5-year plan would be to be offering a program for all genders and all identities. And
do you like, I guess I don't know if this is a touchy question, but like when you're choosing applicants, like do you try and choose people from like each of those demographics, or you're just saying, nah, these are like the best people with regards to just like what they have and what they want out of it, regardless of how they identify?
Yeah, we don't choose based on identity. It's more barriers to access combined with the ability to regulate, like self-regulate, and just like their trauma story and how that impacts them today. Like we just need to make sure that we're able to support them in an alpine environment. So we just need to make sure that they're able to self-regulate. And so if there's uncertainty there, Sarah will do a one-on-one call and have a session with them, like a short session, to just chat with them and ask, like, have you been in these types of environments before? How do you feel when you're in these environments? What kind of support do you require in these environments? And just has like a real conversation. Like, we're not sure whether we're able to support you. Like if you have a panic attack, for example.
Yeah. Like you don't want to get people on and then, you're like, if they do like obviously you want people to like finish the course and have, like you were saying about those people that either like continue to do it or they had that moment of like closing the chapter, whatever it was. You obviously don't want to just get people on for the sake of it, i.e. like if you're like, we probably can't get this person to where they need to be.
Yeah, it's more like people will apply with sharing their story, expressing their own barriers to accessing alpine climbing camps such as this, and then share their intention for being part of the camp and part of the Dirtbabe community. And then we choose people based on, like I said, the ability to self-regulate, and then the barriers to access piece is really important because the whole point of Dirtbabes is to break down those barriers. So we really want to like increase that opportunity for people that are experiencing the most barriers. So if they have like a financial barrier.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are the typical barriers that you find?
So social barriers, maybe, environmental. So location, where they live, where they grew up, the type of lifestyle that they were raised in. Maybe they never were exposed or have been able to be exposed to climbing. The friends that they have, like, haven't introduced them to climbing. They can't afford to buy climbing gear or take a course. Psychological barriers. So if they've experienced any sort of trauma related to the outdoors that has impacted them from being able to, step outside of their comfort zone and they need that extra support. But something that is important to stress is we're not providing therapy or counseling to these individuals. We're just giving them tools so that they can use these tools in the mountains. So they have to hold themselves accountable by participating in the psychoeducational workshops that we offer. And then they're the ones that are using those tools when they're outside, and we're just prompting them.
And have you like tweaked it as along the way as you started it? Like you had kind of like first iteration of it, and then you ran it, and you're like, oh, this actually element was better, not necessarily better, but you're like, people kind of fed into this more than this other bit, and like changed it as it's gone on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Every year we have a huge debrief. We chat with the participants. We have debrief with the guides, and we just fine tune and alter the program in big ways or little ways, and make those changes for the next year. And it's exciting because like it does keep getting better. And I think like this year for sure, I think it's going to be, every year it's going to be better, but this year in particular, I think is going to be a big jump.
Okay.
Yeah, we learned a lot last year.
And like what like,
in what ways? Well, so one thing that we learned last year was a lot of folks found the camp to be a lot. Like it's a lot to spend time, looking inward and participating in like self-reflection practices. So we'll do like little games or debriefs or facilitated group discussions that just like challenge you to be creative by, reflecting on the day, or reflecting on why you joined the course, or reflecting on a particular connection you might have with another participant in the program, or just challenging people to open up in a way that maybe they haven't before in a camp context like that. And that can take a lot out of you. And so we want to reduce the amount of games and debriefs that we have, because the technical piece, like the climbing piece, is the focus on the camp, and the psychoeducational part is the focus prior to the camp. And so we just really want to make sure that people understand that there is a certain amount of homework that you need to do before the camp so that you can just focus on the technical skills.
So the homework is that the kind of, you like take it out of the camp itself and then add it into this more like homework element?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, totally. Like, well, we've always done 3 virtual sessions. Usually they're an hour to 2 hours, and Sarah will facilitate them, and I'm usually kind of the helper.
The hyper.
Yeah, the hyper. And we just prompt people, the participants, with questions like, why, did you choose to join the camp? What are your biggest fears? How have you managed these fears in the past? What are tools that you use now? Pretty straightforward questions. And then Sarah will do like a whole workshop on different practices. You'd have to join the camp.
Yeah,
Figure
of
what
course.
those are. On how to, support yourself and self-regulate,
And
both in climbing but also in life.
Yeah, and since starting Dirtbabe, has there been anything that you've got out of it that you didn't anticipate getting out of it?
That's a good question. Man, everything. Like, it's so rewarding in all the ways. Like, I had to take some leave from work a couple years ago. I had a really stressful summer in fire, and I took leave, and Dirtbabes was there. It was a project that was always existing in the backside, but then I just had all this time because I was on leave from work to put some focus into it. And I've learned a lot about governance.
Like the actual government or governance of yourself?
Governance within a nonprofit.
Right, okay, yeah.
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 Maybe a little bit within myself, I guess. Yeah. I've learned a lot about insurance.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about like non-business but business related plans, like business planning, strategic, like organizational planning. So how you want, like, business continuity. So like how you want your business to grow, short-term and long-term planning. I don't know. Like, it's all been an interesting journey.
Yourself, though, is there anything about you that you learned? You're like, I didn't realize I was good or bad or indifferent at this.
That's a good question too. Maybe I need to spend more time reflecting. You should come on one of our
Yeah.
camps. You can ask these questions. I think
You
it's
might,
definitely given me confidence. Like
yeah,
it's maybe I've always known that I've been someone that has like a higher risk tolerance in life. Like I drove out here without a job and like a month's worth of money and like by myself in my little Toyota Echo when I was whatever 25, I guess. So not that young, but like I just came out here with no plan. And I don't know if that's something that everyone would do.
I don't think so, nah.
And like, yeah, applied for wildfire as like a female when I didn't know anyone really who did it. I don't know. I feel like I've done those things, but it's just been my life and that's
Yeah,
who you are. But then doing Dirtbabe Collective has made me realize that like not everybody's like that. And some people do need like a little bit of support
yeah,
to get that confidence. And so it's given me more confidence to recognize like, oh yeah, you actually have like taken a lot of risks in life and that's kind of cool.
I always think like, as the hardest one is the first one, because I think, see, once you do the first one, you like kind of reflect on it, and hopefully it went like, it didn't go disastrously. You
Right.
know, like moving abroad, like you moved in here, me moving at that time it was to Australia, and then the next time you contemplate like a big change, you're like, well, I did that and actually, like, I enjoyed it, or at least you're like, it didn't, the worst case scenario that you envisioned didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
So then it kind of gets easier, and then you build upon it, and then and then you get to the point where you're like, right, cool, let's
Yeah.
start anew
The
from it.
worst thing didn't happen. And so we're
Yeah,
good. Or the worst thing is happening and I'm like
yeah.
still good, you know?
But my mom, I appreciate me telling that. Well, I don't know if she'll care. She had some like, she had like 5 cysts in her hip bone when she was like a
Okay.
child,
Yeah.
and she actually got her hip bone cut out, and then like bone from someone else put in it from her leg. So she's got these like two. It's honestly like something out of a movie, like these two like pirate scars. And
Whoa.
when I say pirate scar, I mean like literally it's like a 6-inch line with like 1, 2, 3. You know how you get like a Halloween costume and you get these
That's what it looks like.
comically bad. Yeah, it's literally like a big 6-inch white line, and then like 1, 2, 3, and then another one there.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah,
That's hardcore.
yeah, and I can't even remember why I was telling you about that, but oh yeah,
She's
yeah,
brave.
injury, yeah. But she's like ran marathons, like done tons of stuff, and it's never stopped her. But
That's amazing.
yeah, I think yeah, especially when you get injuries, it just like totally shifts your perspective on it.
Yeah. It just becomes a part of your story.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's cool though that she like
it's kind of, I think they're cool, but she obviously like hates them. I think.
she should get a tattoo.
Yeah, no. I think now that she's older, I don't think I honestly don't think she cares. But yeah, I think yeah, just that idea, like kind of not letting the injury like hinder you and stop you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think yeah, again, taking those risks, like I think as well, like if you never take them, then I don't know, like I don't know if it just feeds into later life. So what I mean by that is like, you and I have obviously both done stuff when we were like younger, and like now that we're older in our 30s, like you're taking like bigger risks, but you've kind of built up to it. Whereas like my friends now who have like maybe, and I'm not saying this is wrong, but like they would like to have moved abroad or do this or that, but they've kind of now got to that age where they have like, taking risk is more risky because of what they have. They have like jobs that they've been in for like a decade plus. They've got a house now, and then like the idea of taking risks when you've not taken risks kind of throughout your life,
Becomes way harder.
becomes way harder.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do it in almost like little small baby steps at that point.
Yeah, and also with like something like Dirtbabe, like it's obviously it's like a creative and personal endeavor. So like you're also kind of like putting like a piece of you to a degree, and Sarah, like you're kind of like putting out to the world to be like judges on. I know that's not really what you're thinking at the time, but that's kind of like it. You're just like, judge me.
It is definitely like even thinking about how I talk about Dirtbabe Collective at present on this podcast. I know that it's going to evolve and change within the year even. It's like it doesn't look anywhere close to what it was when we first started. Like we started before COVID, and initially the plan was what we're doing now, like provide outdoor programs. But because COVID started, we were like, okay, let's just do like online conversations. And so we started these like group discussions and invited people. And we had this like little Instagram page with like 500 followers.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, we like somehow got lots of followers. I think because this is a funny little side story. So when we started Dirt Babes, we like built a website and we were looking at our Google Analytics, and our website was showing the gender differences or like the
Right.
gender percentages of viewers.
Yeah.
And it was like 80% male and like 20% female. We're like, wow, we're like, you know, our brand is like obviously making a statement in like the male world. And then we realized, we're like, wait a second. And we realized there's this porn site called like dirtybabe.com.
Oh, no way.
But we thought it was funny. We were like, whatever, let's just keep the name.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to be super cynical in there and be like, oh, I wonder if it's because it's like attractive girls like climbing, whether it's actually just, which
It's
obviously
more
like,
it's more about the play on words, how like dirt bag
yeah,
is like a common word in the climbing world. And the story of the name is, so Sarah and I went to Morocco to go climbing, and Spain. We were gone for like 5 months or something like that. And we like camped in the desert and drank mint tea and ate tagine every night. And
maybe you should get into holiday planning because these sound amazing.
I was a holiday planner. I was a travel agent for a year before I came out here. But it was fun. And we were so dirty and hadn't showered in like a month because we were living in the desert.
Yeah.
And we had a couple people that were camping with us, and one of our buddies, Kevin, was like walking behind us one day, and we looked so haggard, like literal dirt, like
Yeah.
on our faces. It was like a very sandy place. And he just like stopped, and we're just like walking, and it's beautiful orange, cliffs with the sun setting, and it's just this like gorgeous Moroccan vibe with like beautiful like spice markets on one side, and then you've got like the slums on the other side. And he's like walking behind us back to the car, and he's like, huh, it's true, dirt babes really do exist.
And is that how the name came about?
And then it kind of stuck.
Okay,
And then when we came up with Dirtbabe Collective, like the idea, we're like, what should we call it?
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
Did you run it by him? Like, were you like, do you mind if we use this? Or?
No, we didn't, but I think he would support it.
Yeah,
He's a dirt babe
yeah.
at heart as well. He's rock guiding in the States and doing really well for himself. Yeah. But I think he would support it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of how the name came to be.
And do you think, like, would an element of taking it abroad, if you could, become like a further addition?
We did talk about that. We were like, how cool would it be to do like expeditions, like maybe horsepack or like dog sled into some sort of peak. And
I mean, that's what's like really cool about what you're doing. Like, there are so many there's so many ways to like progress it, back to the getting the never evers in and then taking it all the way to like trips abroad. Like, it's super exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. The options really are endless, which does feel intimidating at times. So the business coach that I'm working with is actually quite helpful because he's helping me just like narrow the focus a little bit, because it gets overwhelming. You're like, okay, like, do I quit my job and just like do this? He asked me the other day, he goes, if money wasn't a factor and you could just do this for a living, like, would you? Because I was wondering if this was a long-term thing or if it eventually will fizzle out. And I was like, hell yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
he's like, that's a good sign.
Well, that's just someone said, I think I read it, but it was if money wasn't, it's exactly what you said. If money wasn't a factor, what would you do? And I mean, like, and then it was obviously various things.
Yeah.
And whatever I read or heard or whoever I talked to was like, that's what you should do.
Yeah.
Live your life as if, don't live your life as if money isn't a factor, because you have the reality of the world and life.
Yeah.
But like, do that. And then there was another one that was like, if you're, this is really kind of morbid, but it was like, if you're like on your deathbed and you're a grandparent and you've got your grandkids around you, like, how would you tell them to live your life? And not just be like, live it how you want, but like, if you were to be like, this is how I think you should do it. Again, it was the exact same thing. It was like, whatever you tell them is what you should do.
Totally. Yeah. Don't live your life based on a paycheck. You know,
Yeah.
don't be chasing numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
Be in the
I
moment.
mean, it sounds like you're not doing that. I mean, with that, which is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, like if it doesn't, you know, if you try it and it peters out, and not in a negative context, but like you're like, you know what, I've taken it as far as I would like to take it. I want to move on to something else. At least when you are older, you could be like, you're like fulfilled that you tried it.
Yeah.
And you're not like, I wish I'd done it. But now I'm like, again, we were talking about friends and risk. You know, you may be in a situation later in life where you're like, oh, wow, I can't do it. But at least now you can look back and be like, either you're like, I now run this massive company, we're doing stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
Or you're like, I tried it, I kind of closed the chapter on it, and it was like,
and that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun adventure.
Yeah, it definitely sounds fun.
I think it's cool. Something that I really respect about like artists, like it's a creative outlet for me, because all in my younger years, I made jewelry, I painted, like I was like really into art, and then I just like completely shifted towards like physical expression. And I do appreciate how artists are willing to put themselves out there and like put something imperfect into the world that is a representation of themselves. And to me, that's what Dirtbabes is. It's like, maybe it's not perfect, and maybe I don't have always the right way of pitching it, and maybe I don't have a clear idea of exactly what it is now and what it will look like, but I'm putting it out into the world, and that's my expression of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know?
And the thing is, though, you're doing it, and I say that in the sense of like, because you know, like you're as you just said, with each camp you've done, you've learned, and it's getting better, and this one will be better, and then you'll do this, and the next one will be better, no doubt. Like, you know, and look at yourself in like 5 years' time with another 5 years of Dirtbabe under your belt. Like, compare that to the person who never started it, and then it has, you know, and then they're just like, you know, you're learning, and yeah, you definitely make mistakes, but it's like in 5 years' time, you'll be so much further ahead than you are now.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to put it with a friend, and him and I were actually kind of similar to you, like where we also used to go hikes in Scotland, and we became really close because we'd have these like just like not even like crazy like therapeutic conversations, but we'd just be in these amazing landscapes having long form conversations for days. And him and I talked about setting up a business, but it was kind of similar an idea, but like more, he's a photographer, and we were talking about like doing the hikes, and like there would be I guess a photography element to it.
Okay.
So not necessarily like the kind of like psychotherapy that you were chatting about, but now like listen to it, it was the same thing. We just like not saw it in a different way, but we just didn't, I guess at the time, think of that psychotherapy. And anyway, I'm kind of rambling here, but we were wanting to do a podcast together, and I would do it with him. But again, I was just like, I'm just going to get started, and he hasn't, because he's got a lot of shit on. He's got a baby and a this and a that. But he was kind of chatting to me the other day about like getting it started, and he was like, but like he said I was going to do this set up with a camera in the studio. I was like, mate, just fucking do it.
Yeah, just start it.
Do it, like,
and do it in like a smaller way. Like take a smaller step, because I think in our mind of like perfection, and it's like just do a messy version of whatever your idea is. Like maybe you don't have the perfect photo, or maybe you don't have the perfect like setup or space or camera or mics or whatever that is. Just like start it and then see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, look, Dirtbabe sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's super cool.
Yeah, you should come to one of the camps.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sitting down for so long and chatting about it with me, because I know you've just finished work and you're like...
Yeah, no, that's great. I like talking about that stuff.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Thanks very much.